I want to also be able to connect the dots for you based on my last video, based on the anatomy of a truth. I wish that you take the utmost care of conformity with your will, and that you move through truth easily and with resolve. But I'm also going to show you, we know the truth is a lie now and a construct. So now what? And a key point in this is your level of discernment, where our intellect becomes or feeds our intuition, and where the two dance. And so there's 3 things that I'm going to give you. One, and first and foremost, in a very fast-moving world and with everything constantly asking for attention in one way, shape, or form. I mean, very literally, this is what our apps on our phone are fighting for, right? But even macroscopically, like the bigger and bigger that grows, in fractal like itself, that is begging for our attention. The more that we can do to slow our body down, the more that we can create space for this discernment. If they are selling truth, the proverbial they, if they are selling truth, then let me remind you the gift the body offers in knowing, in presence and in flow, and in its own electrical circuitry knowledge, or however you want to look at it, as a mechanism, whilst also maintaining humanity. But so with that, just the idea of stillness, if you have never sat and just breathed, the amount of times people have just been like, that's not my lifestyle, or I am breathing, what do you mean breath work? I am breathing. We are constantly breathing, but we're not necessarily fully aware of how it is that we are breathing. And so simply acknowledging that can absolutely lend itself to you. Every kind of breath has an elemental quality to it. Breath has its own elemental correspondence. So if you pay attention to where that's coming from, or how that feels, or even the temperature of it, it's an ancient practice to even recognize your shadow, and sort of scry into the shadow and see what that can tell you about your own elemental construction. As far as the breath goes, in through your nose, out through your nose is a very earth-ridden, grounding breath. Find how you feel that in your body. For me, I very much think you can sort of feel it solidify as the element, as earth does. In through your nose, out through your mouth is a typical or a common yogic breath, the Ujjayi breath, and that is very clearing. It almost cools the body as you're building heat, and it very much speaks to the bioelectric and chemical memory that the body is communicating in and with during any movement or lack of. What else? In through your mouth, out through your mouth is an air breath. It's very clearing. You'll notice this in Wim Hof breathing. And that is because you're clearing out toxins, you're making space. I often will remind you to sort of empty out your body, and that's very much calling into that element as well, whether or not that's deliberate or intuitive. Well, what am I missing? Oh, in through your mouth, out through your nose, you'll feel building, and that's very much a fire breath. Beyond the elemental breaths, sitting with your body and understanding what your body does, and treating it like the pendulum that it is for this experience, in which case asking it a simple yes or no. And when you are at a still point, what does yes feel like in your body? And when you are at a still point, what does no feel like in your body? And that will be very much personal and specific to you. But pay attention to those things. And when you are unsure, the more you know that, the more you get clear in that. If you do that once now, I promise you it will change the way that you are able to make decisions when you are unsure. If you just, why don't we just knock that off our to-do list right now, okay? Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. And take a deep breath in. And we're going to ask our body what no will feel like as we let that breath out. Pay attention to any sensations that arise, whether that's a constricting in your gut, or tension in your fingers, or curling in your toes, or perhaps a pain in your shoulder blades. Pay attention to all of those things. Especially what your awareness goes to now. If it is something that you're like, I always have that pain, I have chronic pain, in fact, don't write off what your body is telling you. Perhaps that is because your body is saying no in a few departments and it's trying to be heard. Conversely, I'm going to take 3 deep breaths again. And on that third breath, same deal. On that exhale, ask your body what it feels like to say yes. So we'll take a deep breath in. And exhale. Deep breath in. And exhale. Deep breath in. And then ask your body to present yes. You might notice tingling, tickles on what feels more like floating or more airy or more light on things that maybe generally allow room and breath, right? You feel the way that the body is capable of expanding or constricting depending on what it is that your bioelectric circuits are really acknowledging, right? Even subliminally, subconsciously, or when we're given so many options that we're just clouded for a minute. The better and more clear you get at it, the smaller amount of time it will take, and then all of that can occur in a simple breath that you would take before any response, rather than like, oh, I've got to sit down and do this 11-minute thing. But to tumbleweed into, the mitochondria is a very intelligent cell that's been underwritten, and has an incredible power and potency. So acknowledging that, there is something that has been a reoccurring modality in discerning these things, and it's something as simple as an arm test is referred to as an arm test, or arm testing. Resistance testing, I think I've heard it called as well. And that is something as simple as standing wherever you are and reaching your arm out. And I don't think it really matters which one either. I feel like I've done both. But you ask yourself a question, kind of like a litmus test, kind of like a lie detector test. You ask yourself a question and you check your resistance based on that question. And you would be surprised how much it sounds silly until you do it to yourself. Where, perhaps I feel like asking names is a dangerous one right now, because that is not who we are. But, basically the litmus test is ask us something that you can fully acknowledge. If that is your name, party on. Maybe it's your date of birth. Maybe it's where you work. Something simple. Maybe it's your favorite color. And something that you would know the answer to, like they would in a lie detector test, so that you can see the resistance that your arm is. And then conversely, you would ask it, after sort of equalizing that plane, you would ask it a question, or ask yourself a question about where it is or what it is that's weighing on your mind at the moment. It's some decision that it is that's paramount and plaguing you, and be ready to see that your body will respond, and it may or may not be the answer that you were anticipating. It may or may not be the answer that you were looking for. It actually might be quite surprising. But this is not just metaphysically or woo-woo, but very much a bioelectric way that your body, again, responds to resistance and contraction or expansion. This is not new stuff either. That's something that's been around, I don't know, maybe since the 70s. You can find it in various types of books. There is a book. Oops. The Eye of the Eye, from which nothing is hidden, by Dr. David R. Hawkins, MD, PhD. And you can see I have lots of notes and markings in it, because that's how I love to get down. But it's definitely one of those things, again, like I talked about, you have to be very aware and maybe wary of the ways in which people discuss God, for it can get very dogmatic. But this was really interesting, and it absolutely outlines this resistance exercise, and frequencies, and the frequency of integrity, and how Christianity and its various systems also lend itself to various types of control or lack of integrity, therefore control by proxy, or control by omission of relinquishing of authority. But that's for you to play with, because I've already dabbled. But beyond using your body like a pendulum, beyond arm resistance and its mitochondrial awareness and bioelectrical charge, and also incorporating those things, is, and I'm sure you've heard, but the emotional freedom technique. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but tapping, the idea of tapping. The idea of tapping very much is stimulating this outer shell of information. Now that we know that your fascia is interwoven into all of your system, and is in fact part of your skin and its various dermis layers, you are constantly receiving nervous system information from even the charges, then imprints that they leave on your skin. So tapping very much accentuates and accelerates these things in their specific points. This is also very elementally designed. Who would I be if I did not give you that recipe as well? Because it is elementally designed, your tapping is addressing a literal and logical issue in a somatic and, again, electrical, biochemical, mitochondrial way. You've seen it if you're familiar with it at all. We go through various points, or you go through various points, and they will all interact with different elements as you move through. When tapping of the forehead, it addresses your logical or your higher thinking, your intellect versus your intuition. This is where the pattern starts. This is your immediate acknowledging of it. That's the thing that you have hold of, whether it weighs on you or what have you, the thing you want to fix, whatever it is. The logical thing we're trying to deconstruct. This is your deconstructing of Earth, really. Again, we go through these points of 5. Your cheekbones is your sensory input and the feeling that often begins to compound. This is where we get layers of emotions that will dress themselves in masks where anger is hiding things underneath it. The tapping of the lips is very much the sensory output, the entry-exit way of the sensory cortex, really. And also where we hold a lot of like fluid, lymph, sinus issues, but also holds and leads to direct path of your pineal gland. Therefore, you have occipital nerves, and very literally the ways in which that your eyes are seeing light. Tapping on your chin is the inspiration of desired feeling or actionable output, very much like your throat chakra. This does also have its own chakra points, but it's a triangulation point of emphasis and of expression. Your collarbones are emotional reservoirs. They very much hold a lot of emotional energy. Your shoulders will also hold a lot of grief, but it's these wells of emotional energy. Because of that, tapping on your collarbones also expels doubt. This is why I think when we're in uncomfortable situations or what have you, we'll find we hold ourselves a little bit more closer to the chest. When we're in frustrated situations or heartbreaking situations, we'll find ourselves kind of holding our hearts, holding or gravitating toward that way in some way. That's the body's subconscious ways of trying to protect and expel doubt. Either holding on to it or, ideally we're trying to relieve it. It's also the sensory output to the heart and the heart memory. This is where we begin to see truth as we move under the pits will be, or the way that we'll tap here is also a huge lymph node collection area. I know people hate the idea of lymph. I don't have enough information to know what else to call it, other than what I do is energy, energy and chi and bioelectric chemical currents. But you'll notice too when you get sick, those things will swell. Ideally, you want concavity. And smooth things. I also kind of massage here when I shower. But this acclimates the expansion of the concept. This is where we flesh, or we sort of trunk the tree, or, give it its girth. Give the idea its expansion, and give the point its girth. Give the point its circumference, actually. That's a nice visual. Tapping on your hands activates the principality of this truth beyond its logical thinking. Tapping on your hands will activate the principality of truth in your sensory output. So you see how we move all of these things, and we start with this one idea. We move through this triangulating doorway of sensory perception. We flesh it out into the chest, into the heart space, into this 4, and then we move it through the 5. Again, we have this sort of fractal movement forward. That, now that you have the recipe, when you are plagued with something, you only need that thought. I'm anxious because da-da-da-da, or I am blah, 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 blah. I think we can walk through one now together. I meditated on a statement that we could work through with this so that we could also move through this on an emotional and intuitive way rather than just an intellectual. And a statement that I think will also hopefully help you and my friends and my familiars and my families, and many, many, many more. But I think also was right on the nose given everything going on in the world and all of these issues of safety and stability across the board. And so with that, as intense of a statement as it is, I think it is a necessary one. And so we will start tapping at the top of our heads. I am afraid and I am unsure what is next. I am afraid and I am unsure what is next. I'm afraid and I am unsure what is next. And then we tap our cheekbones and our sensory input. What does this feeling make us feel like? This is where things begin to compound, and I'm sure you're already led into that. What do feelings of fear and unsureness feel? I feel like none of my needs are going to be met. I feel like none of it matters. I feel like angry and violent. Compounding, right? Sensory input. What do those things make you feel? Let's not stay there too long. The top of your lips, tapping the top of your lips, where my piercing is. The desired feeling. You don't want to feel unsure and afraid. But let's not stop there. I want to feel confident and resourceful and provided for and safe and expansive and whatever other things that your body and your beautiful intuition are starting to discover now that we've identified the things that we do not want to feel. Tapping on your chin. We've defined that, or we've understood the desired feeling. So what is the inspiration of this desired feeling or the actionable output? What does that make you want to do? Where have we recalled feeling that before? If I want to feel ease and provisions and providing, that feeling, that excitement, that comes when I'm like, that comes when I'm gifting my friends beautiful things, when I'm making them cards, when I'm in a wealth of gratitude because I'm seeing somebody else also thrive. When I'm in a wealth of gratitude because the thing of value is the reaction to and the inspiration of causality. The means to the end is that feeling rather than the other way around. Our collarbones will expelled out of whatever it is that we think we need to make those things feel real. We don't need to pick up the bill. We don't need it to be tangible things. Wealth and abundance and needs being met comes in many ways. Fear is only masking the excitement of the unknown, and being unsure also means that we have a plethora of possibilities and just the information that we need to grow. And as we expelled out, we move to sensory, or to under our bits, and we flesh that out even more. And wherever that continues to lead you, where does that, and I hope that pours right out of you. But I find that more in creating with what I have, in offering back, in seeing joy elsewhere or like on somebody else's face, and remembering and reminding myself of the plethora of strong and stable wealth of knowledge and wealth of resource that my body is capable of, whether it be something as simple and subtle as letting me know where I am in time and space, or letting me know that something is wrong and that I'm not in alignment and that I need to move through so that I can find where there's ease. And we tap back at the head because we've fleshed out beyond our logical thinking, our higher thinking, beyond our intellect to our intuition. I am fearless and I am limitless. Because I am fearless and I am limitless, I smile in the face of fear. And I work well under pressure, and I am constantly finding abundance where there was none. And therefore I am attracting. And therefore I am attracting more and more abundance and more wealth of knowledge and resources and watching that grow into the community and the ecosystem that is my creativity and my creation, and the ways in which that I am able to give back to the world. Because there are things that I have needed, so there will be things that other people can also find useful, because I'm not alone in this experience, and therefore we will always be prepared for what is next. Because I am not alone in this experience. I am with my many dimensions of self, as well as all of the dimensionalities of perspectives that the people around me have. And so we activate this truth of having all that we need and being all that we are, so that we can move through truth easily and with resolve and without doubt. Don't hold your breath. Take a deep breath in and exhale. And I hope you're feeling tingly everywhere, and I hope you're feeling wonderful and like fiery and excited and inspired, rather than hopeless and afraid and unsure. Because in fact, you are a plethora of elemental resources and mitochondrial energies that are capable and have been capable, with less resources, to do much more to meet the demands of your own nourishment in whatever creative ways you need to, so that you can find shelter and safety in your heart and in your mind and in your space. Because of that, may you find restfulness enough to dream deeply, and so much so that it expands, so that dreaming becomes your world. And with certainty, with absolute certainty, that you are limitless and that nothing is impossible, as hopeless as it may seem. I love you. I appreciate you very much. And I hope to see you next time. Kukuye. Shili an shili koi an. Squista. Tanada koi.